Hey everybody, I'm Robert and welcome to Adventures into History. On this very special episode, we are in Calhoun, Georgia, a city in Gordon County, a land that has seen the rise and fall of nations, from the Cherokee to major battles during the Civil War. And right in the middle of it all is a small cemetery that tells an often more quiet story of the people who were once enslaved here and their descendants who rose up and became state champions. Today I'm joined by Shauna from the Gordon County Civic Club, who takes us on a tour back in time through this cemetery, sharing the stories of the people here and what it means for us all today.
Okay, we are right now standing in what was once the Cherokee Nation. And in 1838, 1839, the U.S. government removed the Cherokees, the Trail of Tears. Well, our ancestors were enslaved by the Cherokees, and then after that, we were enslaved by the white settlers. After the Cherokees were removed in 1840, the U.S. government did a land auction, and they auctioned off what was once the Cherokee Nation. This is also the Cherokee capital. Gordon County, the city of Calhoun, our emblem is the Cherokee emblem. New Echota is right up the street. After that, after all the removal, Richard Peters bought 4,000 acres here in Gordon County. Richard Peters was very instrumental in Georgia. He was the individual that designed Atlanta, changed it around, named streets. Georgia, where Georgia Tech sits right now in Georgia State, that was where his home was at. Well, he owned about 233 slaves, and he carved out 2,500 acres, and it was called the Peters Plantation. If you go down to Belmont Street, you'll see a state marker there that shows the Peters Plantation during the Civil War was where Sherman and his troops stayed while they burned the rest of Georgia. Well, those slaves that lived here were my ancestors, Miss Maud's ancestors, and Miss Mary Ruth and the black community. Well, they stayed after the Emancipation Proclamation. And through that staying, the Peters felt the loyalty that they gave to them because they did sharecrop the land. They deeded this to us in 1911. They gifted it to us first in 1909 and then actually legally deeded it to us in 1911. And in 1911, the Gordon County Civic Club was formed. And from that point, the trustees have maintained stewardship over the land given to us by our former enslavers. So I know that's a lot of information to take in, but it's a real history because those trustees then were given the opportunity by the Rosewanne Foundation in 1929 to build our first black school. And they did that. And that black school was called Rosewanne Elementary in 1929. And the same trustees whose grandparents were once enslaved built the school, gave the land that the Peters also helped them get, and the Hunts helped them get, and then that school turned into Stevens High School, and those descendants of the slaves here became 12-time champions in basketball, boys and girls, undefeated season, 9 times regional champions. The girls were 8 times regional champions, back-to-back state basketball champions for the girls, 3-peat for the boys. I mean, unreal history considering you started as enslaved people. So whether they meant for good or meant for bad or whatnot, the Peters and the Hunts helped our community become a functioning, productive, exceptional group of people. And a lot of those men and women, their parents were the slaves of those two individual families. And those men and women also went on to become veterans, FBI people. George's great-grandson, he graduated from Harvard Law School. So he went from enslaved to Harvard Law. You know, my mother was the first black in the whole county to go to the University of Georgia on a full academic scholarship in '67. Well, her children have doctorals and master's degrees. So there are exceptional people who came out of bondage of two nations, the Cherokees and the United States of America, and they thrived. And that's where you're standing right now. It is Mr. George Sr., right here, who was born a slave right here.
Since we're right here, maybe time to mention what's going on behind this.
Well, we're currently in litigation with them, but this is a development that was happening here. The man that owned it previous, his name was Mr. Acreage, and he respected, he said, I don't know where the cemetery ends and where it begins. So he never developed the hillside. And in 2024, the land was sold because he passed away, and this is the result of the land being sold. And so it's only just a little bit that I can say about it, but we are in litigation against them because, again, like I said, this was one parcel of land. Our ancestors lived down in the valley and they buried on the hill. The hillside did go out another 150 feet. Now, this is we're starting to get into the real old. And just be careful in here, because as you can tell when I was stepping you see that? You see that? Yeah, we're walking on them right here. But I cut all this down so you can see it. This is also our property. But as you can see, we got these orange flags right here because those are sunken in. Same way as across ours. See, that is our boundary line. But yeah, it used to go 100 foot out, 150 feet more out, and it looked just like this. And that was just a few weeks ago. As you can see, I got orange flags everywhere. Same type of trees. Here's one right here. It's an actual burial underneath there. Mr. Lynn Strouser, I think that's his last name. He was on one of y'all's things. Well, he did a ground penetrating. Just a small one for us. And where you see these orange markers, they're actual graves. Christian burials are east to west. And all of them line up. And at nighttime, that moon comes out. It's so peaceful and beautiful up here. I said, I see what they used to do. How they sit up here and talk and whatnot and reminisce.
How many graves would you estimate are on this hill?
I don't know.
What's remaining of the hill, I should say.
I honestly don't know because we haven't unearthed everything. You see the stake right there? That's where our property goes present day. But remember, this was the Peters Plantation, and we used to live down there.
Right.
You know, back then people didn't care anything about they didn't know nothing about it because there was no boundaries. It was their home. It was one piece, and it went all the way. So, you know, I don't know. I know that currently, with us uncovering, we have 145 unmarked. That's unmarked in just this section, because as you can tell, where we're standing on this road, there are burials under here. There are. This is Miss Maud Chatham right here. She is the great-great-granddaughter of Mr. Charles Hunt, who was brought down by David Hunt, his slave owner, before the Cherokee Nation was removed. And she is also the descendant of quite a few other Hunts here. First generation Hunt, George Hunt. His father was a slave that was born right here on the Peters Plantation, as well as her uncle Stephen. Stephen was forced to go to the Civil War. So she has a very rich history right here. Miss Maud is also a 2-time state basketball champion and came from slavery to championship right here, Miss Maud Chatham. She is in our Hall of Fame, and she also is a high school high jump champion in the state as well. So we asked her to come here today because she represents one of the oldest slaves that we know, and this was prior to the Peters Plantation in Gordon County. Gordon County was 1850, and Miss Maud's relative was here way before that. He also lived to be 114 years old. He saw 3 centuries, the 1700s, the 1800s, and the 1900s. Miss Maud Chatham. Slavery to champions, to FBI, to teacher. Back home to retirement.
Yeah, not teacher.
Well, public school system, yeah. You can tell that story. And then you're living legend. And I don't want any of y'all to discount that. What y'all did at Stevens, how we've maintained this all these years. This cemetery is 188 years old. Wow. This is Miss Mary Ruth Garrigan right here. Miss Mary Ruth Garrigan is our president of the Board of Trustees. The way the Peters set it up is once they gave us the land, trustees would be the one that oversaw the cemetery and their successors, and we are the successors of the original. The originals was Miss Maud again, Miss Maud's granddaddy, great-granddaddy, Mr. George Sr., who's right over there, and Mr. Arthur Sr., which is Miss Maud's uncle's son, Stephen's son, and he's right there. So this is a lot of history right here. But Miss Garrigan right here, she also has a ton of family in here, the Baxters, the Montgomerys, the Garrigans. Go ahead, say something.
Yes, and I am so concerned about the cemetery. We have come a long way, and we thank these young men for coming up to share this with us. And so we hope to get it better and better and better. But we are so proud of the start that we have and to become a historical Colbert Cemetery here in Gordon County, Calhoun, Georgia.
Come down here and I'm going to show you our oldest burial. The oldest burial that my son actually found it. We were cleaning this section right here off because it had grown up so bad. And through the cleaning it off, the mower hit the headstone. And I said, wait a minute. Sean said, oh, come on now, Sean, let's see what we got going on here. So we took all the leaves. We had like almost 36 inches of leaves. See, here's another one of the branches that just fell because this wasn't down last night. And then we found Miss Jenny McCarver, 1837. What we know is that family members over the years, when they can't originally afford a headstone, but they keep telling people where they're buried, when they do get to a point they can't afford one, they put it there. We have another gentleman right here who was born into slavery. Died in 1924, and then he was 77 years old. So through our math, we know that he was born a slave. As you can tell, that's a sunk-in grave. We don't have a marker, or it may be underground. Through the restoration, we'll be able to tell. But here is another one, Mr. D. Hurd, and his sister's over there, or wife is on the other side. And you can tell too, he's 84 years old, and he was he was also born into slavery. We have over 41 so far individuals that we can confirm were born into slavery and then freed. Over 41. We have 9 that were born into slavery and died. Those are antebellum graves. We have them. We have 56 veterans. One of these veterans right here is Mr. Lawrence Garrigan. That is Miss Mary Ruth's father-in-law. Her husband, Mr. Lawrence Garrigan, was a part of the 1959, 58, 59, and 60 championship teams, correct?
Correct.
Basketball state championships.
Yes, and he played and all of that, and I was there alongside him with being a cheerleader, cheering him on. And then we grew up together and we married. In 1963, we married. And so that is my husband, which is Lawrence also. He's got a nickname, Pete. So this is his father here up at Calvary Colbert Cemetery. And his mother is down on the other end. So I'm excited to be part of it. Absolutely. And it's exciting. So now that we know all of this history, I have learned a lot in my 80 years about this cemetery than I have ever dreamed I would.
And she was also Miss Stevens, too.
A queen.
She was also Miss Stevens High School.
Miss Queen and a senior queen.
Yeah, both of Miss Maud and Miss Mary Ruth, they both graduated from Stevens High School, which was a segregated high school, and it was only in existence from 1952 to 1966, those classes, 53 to 66. And then LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, forced the integration in the South. And so we had to integrate into Calhoun High School. Got to be a little careful over here because these are some of the oldest ones. As you can tell, we have people that the tree grew into them. They may not have had a concrete vault because these are the older ones. But as you can see, we even have the old different shapes of headstones. This is one of our oldest ones here as well. Oh, wow. Just from a light?
The light really brings it out.
See, 1865. So the Emancipation Proclamation had not taken full place, so she was born a slave. Only for months, but she was still born a slave. Now, Mr. Spencer, they've got to be related in some kind of way, was born a slave in 1850. There's another one, 1868. I think that's Miss Carol Steele, 1868. Oh, God, I need one of them flashlights. And all of this over here is the Steele family. Now, if you come right back here, now we are walking over people, but I think they would be okay with it because of what we're doing for them. Walter Steele and Larry Steele are also veterans. And that's their mother right there. And through our restoration, as you can see, that's another grave. We just got to keep digging down. If you turn right here, you see we're starting to slowly but surely go back here, and we know that there are graves in there as well, because this is the oldest part of the cemetery. Now, if you come right on out here again, now a lot of this was growed up until about 9 months ago. Here's another one of our veterans.
William E. Hawkins, Private First Class, U.S. Army, November 18th, 1921 to December 21st, 1974.
Same family, Mr. Elbert Hawkins. Come on, got one more for you. And the tree actually grew into his.
Wow.
I don't know how that happened, but all of these names that you're seeing are on the 1850 and 1860 slave records, because slaves did not have last names. We had to take European names first and last, and all of these names that you're seeing are on the 1850, 1860 slave records and the 1836 Cherokee Nation census. Now we're going to come on back here. Let's go to hit this one first, because she's another one that was born a slave. As you can tell, more Hawkins, same family as over there, and that's Miss Caroline Hurd. She was also born a slave. You flash the light on that, I've got to have one of them flashlights. So it could be your grandson.
February 6, 1910, died February 9th, 1910, only lived 3 days.
Now this is an entire family of Wades right here. You have to go on the side right there, born slaves. And their children are buried at their feet. Now this side over here, this is Miss Maud's aunt. I know her as Miss Pitty because she was my step-grandmother. She was married to my great-granddaddy, two greats, great-great-granddaddy. And this is Charles, the oldest slave, Charles Hunt's oldest, the oldest slave that we know of. This would be his great-granddaughter. Miss Etta, Miss Pitty's father, and that's also Miss Maud's great-grandfather.
George Hunt, September 1843 is a birth date, and Mattie Hunt, April 3rd, 1868 to March 22nd, 1923. Do you know when he died?
1939. He was 97 years old.
Oh, wow.
He was 97 years. They lived a long life. His daddy lived to be 114.
Yeah, it's a long-lived family.
Long-lived family. This is a dangerous part because, as you can see, it's sunk in. We are in the process of restoration, and we became a 501c3 last year, and I did that for the families, all of us. The Gordon County Civic Club really is the families. We are the families. We're one and the same, but families can't get grants, so we had to become a nonprofit organization. And we're in the process of applying for grants to actually get a ground penetrating radar so that we can see where all of our graves are at. Because that area may look empty, but it's not. That area actually has all graves in it. This whole section is full. But a ground penetrating radar will be able to tell us exactly where they're at and where the headstones are at. As a child, I saw the headstones, so I know they're there, but the earth does seep down over time. This is part of tribal burial, is to bury up on top and then create the mound, and then you put the tributes. But over time, the family members of those that didn't have markers came back and put headstones there. Mr. George's son, Jasper, he's over here also. I just thought this was so interesting. Look how they spelt born. This is a baby. Look how they spelt born. Bone. But this is Mr. Jasper, and his descendants are also living. And that's Mr. Charles's great-grandson. As you can tell right there, that's a grave. Where we're walking right now, they run east to west, but look at all of these. All this used to be covered. But now we're starting to slowly push it back. And because we know that they're grazing here, we can't bring heavy equipment, so a lot of this is done by hand. But as you can tell, see, look, these are not just rocks. These are markers. And the other way that they marked it was by cinder blocks. And you see the cinder block underneath the ground? But see, you see that was the lining where the children and that's the end of theirs, because they had those markers. See how they've got them, and just over time it just ate it up. And see, they left those kind of...
The funeral home placards?
People didn't realize they don't last. But like I said, the families, they come back later if the family hasn't died out. That's the key. Where we're standing right now, you can see the sunkenness. Like my aunt loved roses. So before she got her headstone, my cousin planted a rose bush. So you'll see a lot of plants that are not indigenous to this area. They're marking the grave. She was born a slave too.
1831.
That is someone. That's not just a random rock. It is just amazing. Yeah, these are tributes.
And this rock, doesn't that look worked? Native Americans would nap rock.
It was mimicking Cherokee burials. Miss Maud's family and my family as well, we do have Cherokee Indian backgrounds. And we are in the process of proving those things because of the area that we are in and the history of it. And so Miss Maud's family was here, like I said before, the removal. It's a couple more things I want to show you. That tree right there is our witness tree. Now, we did an analysis on it, and that tree is over 240 years old. It has been guarding our cemetery for a very long time. Now, I've actually spoken to Mr. J.L. and Cena's great-great-granddaughter. She gave me their papers, and they are part of the Cherokee Nation. They were part Cherokee and part Afro-Indigenous people. And their bloodline is still living. Both born slaves. Cherokee name is Cena. And so is Porch. It is on the Cherokee 1835 census, which is available online. You can go, all the information that I'm giving is all public record. Right. So you can go and verify all of it, because that's where I got a lot of it from. What I did was I took our oral history. I asked everyone what were they told and this and that, and I knew what I was told, and I took that history as a guidepost and then went and got the information. And I'm so thankful for news reports. Our cemetery has been written about in several books and in several articles. Nellie Peters' memoirs that are at the University of Georgia Archives, Richard Peters. We're well documented. Okay, so this young lady right here, Mrs. Lula Porch, she was born right after the Emancipation Proclamation. However, the last name Porch with an A is directly tied to the Creek Nation. Actually, it's the Creek Porch from Alabama. Those are tribal headstones. I asked, what are those markings at the top? And those markings are directly tied to the Creek Nation in Alabama. And they used to trade. Those are the ones from Columbus, the Muskogee, down in that area. And Mr. Amos Summerar, also, this all ties in to Creek Nation traditions and symbolism. And all they did was carry out their ancestors' traditions. That's it. So we have quite a few different people. You could stay here for hours. I'll show you some more veterans that we have, that we literally have them everywhere. A lot of people, they did not have the means. But when they did, they came back, and you'll see a lot of these because they were very cheap to make during that time period. What they also did was their ancestors that didn't have a headstone, they got them one like that because they were cheap. And this family right here, the great-grandfather was a brick mason who helped build the school over on the other side of town, the 1929 school, because part of that agreement was we had to give money and our labor and our land. And their great-grandparents father was a brick mason. And as you could tell, even on that one, that's Miss Bessie Ann King, and they carved them out self. And so they came back and put the marker when they could afford one. Now this is my relative. She's one of the older ones here, but the Curtis name is from the Cherokee Nation as well as the 1850 slave schedules. And that is one of Miss Mary Ruth's relatives, Montgomery. These are the Harrises. (1909). And then if you keep going down, this is his bloodline. One veteran. His son, his name is Sammy Harris also. His nickname was Mickey, who is my son's grandfather. And he was also a war veteran. But he's buried in Dalton. And that's Miss Polly, my son's great-grandmother, Mickey's mother, and Mr. Sammy's wife. Now let's go right here. This is my grandfather, great-great-grandfather. This is his son, Edward. And remember what I said earlier? You see how they have the E on maize? Yeah. That was from our original slave owner. He was also a general in the Army, but that side is from Dahlonega. And his name was John Mays. And he had our grandfather with one of the slaves, and his name was Ebenezer Mays. And they had the E on it, but my great-grandfather, Ebenezer's son, dropped the E, but his son didn't. And the white side of our family was here in Gordon County, and that's how Grandpa and them moved over. Right here, Ed had one of the original one, and then they got him that one. That's the Littles. They were very important here too, the white side as well as the black. Here's another veteran right here. He had one of the original ones too. And then the military, because you can apply for military headstones, and we've done that for quite a few of ours.
And he's a World War I veteran.
Yes. And he was more than likely first-generation freedman. Mr. O.K. Little, who is also a veteran, and his whole family is right up there. But this is Mr. Little, World War I. More than likely, first-generation freedman. I mean, it's just unreal. This is the Smith family, and they have three. Actually, more than three, because Mr. Harry's not buried here, but they have three different branches.
Huey Smith, U.S. Navy, World War II. This is Alton Huey Smith, U.S. Air Force.
And he was a part of the 1952 championship team. And then his cousin,
L.C. Smith, Private Company A.
I think that's the Army.
Yeah, training regiment. I think it is Army, World War II.
Now, this one is very difficult. We've cleaned him off about 6 times. This is Paul Wingfield. This is my great-aunt's husband, and it's very difficult, so you may not be able to get him. But that's Paul Wingfield. He was in World War II.
Oh, and you've got a Eldrin Bailey headstone.
Oh, what kind of headstone is that? We got quite a few of those.
Eldrin Bailey was a plaster artist in Atlanta, and he made these headstones as an affordable alternative specifically for the African American community. We've done a study of his headstone. He's Atlanta based. The funeral home would call him up and tell him what headstone, give him the information. So his headstones are actually really interesting. If you don't mind, I might trade jobs with you for a minute there. They were made during a time Jim Crow era, and the African American community was not given honorific titles. So on all of his stones, he always gives an honorific title to the person, whether it's Mr., Mrs., Doctor, whatever their title was.
That makes sense. And actually, As you,
Oh, I see.
There's another one right there. We've got a bunch of those.
That one's got a lot of great detail on it. So the funeral home name at the top again, which I can't make out exactly what it says. It looks like MT.
Ask Miss Mary Ruth over there. They use Dozier in Rome, and now we currently use Mr. Willis from Dalton, Georgia. But Dozier, and it was one other. We'll have to ask Miss Mary Ruth who they used to use.
It says Mrs. Mary Ann Hassler. And let's see if we can get down to the date on here. It may be too far underneath.
And see, that's what we run into. Yeah. That's what we run into a lot. Now, this is Mr. Clark. He's one of our oldest ones, too. This is the whole the whole Smith family.
Mr. Clark Smith died October 4th, 1846.
Mm-hmm. And see, these are his children, but we got to dig further down.
Right.
And see, that's got the same point of the headstone like you were talking about.
Yes.
But it's got to go further down.
Right.
And as you could tell, here's more of you'll see most of the relatives are right there together. So this right here see that headstone right there? And so we've got to dig a little bit farther down, but we need to be careful because we just cleaned this out a couple of months ago. And we found more graves in there, but they are sunken graves, and some of them are not marked. Now, the further we go over here, we have another veteran.
U.S. Navy, World War II, William Floyd McDaniel.
And here's another one here.
Alonzo Kennedy,
Yes.
U.S. Army, Korea.
And here is another one, Mr. Paul. Now, the one that I told you that is the missing in action, his memorial will go right here, and this is his father and mother.
And tell me about, who is that again?
It's John E. Kennedy. He served in World War II and the Korean War, and he went missing during the Korean War, and we have the documents for that too. In 1952, I believe, the military sent his family a letter in December and said he's been gone long enough, and they declared him missing, and then they gave him the Purple Heart, and they gave it to his mother for his valiant service. And that was written in our 1976 bicentennial book.
Will Kennedy, born August 14th, 1880, died February 20th, 19.
And that's Mr. Pat Kennedy. That is John's dad.
Since we're right here at this backyard, do you think that there might have, yeah.
My grandmother said they buried on top of they built on top of us. So, all of these are 1970 homes.
Yeah.
So, we didn't have a lot of, even though we had freedoms, we didn't have freedoms. Does that make sense?
Another unique thing about the Eldred Bailey stones, that stamping.
Honestly, I thought someone in the family did it and just carved it out because they couldn't afford one. That's what we originally thought. Now, Miss Lily Scott is a direct descendant of the Porches. This is Miss Irene's grandmother. The Scotts, the Porches, they intermarried with one another. But see, she was born in 1897. This right here, all of this, what you're seeing, we just uncovered it a couple of months ago. That's Mr. John Wiley. But I'm going to show you one that it's just going to be like, oh, wow, ties it all in. This is Mr. Campbell. Mr. Campbell is my cousin's father-in-law, married in Hackett Campbell. And he's married to Miss Joanne. Now, this one right here is George Jr., right behind you. That is Mr. Charles's grandson.
George Hunt, Private First Class U.S. Army. He was born July 2nd, 1893.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was 80s. He died in 82.
And so his grandfather lived to be 114.
We don't know the date and any of that, but he was born into slavery in 1788, brought here before the Cherokees were removed, remained enslaved. He had a son, George Sr., who is over there, and this is George Sr.'s son. And his son, Gilbert, is married to my cousin, Mariah.
Oh, really?
So my cousins are, and I remember Mr. George. He passed in 82, so that would have made me 7 years old. But like I say, he was married to Miss Gladys. And they were members of our church, Allen Chapel AME Church. Miss Gladys is his second wife. His first wife, Gilbert's mother, her name was Miss Gladys too, but Gilbert is Mr. George's oldest son and married to my cousin Mariah, and Mary Ruth, my cousin, is still living, and so is her bloodline.
So you have connections to almost everyone here too?
Everybody. So we occupy about 2 acres right now. We got a little over 3, but we occupy about 2. He's my uncle right here. His name is Melza Garlington, but he helped raise my mom, so we consider him our grandfather. And my grandmother's right next to her. We've got her headstone coming, but this is Melza. And he actually died coming down to his sister's funeral. So they had Miss Laura, his sister, had just passed, and he was coming from Detroit, which is where him and Etta lived, and he had a car accident in Tennessee and died. So they had to have a double funeral. And this is Mr. Walter, the gentleman I was telling you about that just passed away unexpectedly in June. Mr. Walter served in Vietnam, and his fingers were blown off, but he got the Purple Heart for that. Here is his father,
Walter Lee
Prentup, whose names are on the Cherokee census as well as the slaves. A lot of our surnames are on all of them. This is his brother, and his brother was in the Navy. We're waiting on his headstone to come in. And that's their mom. And that's Miss Mary Ruth's aunt. Those are my cousins, all right there, the Childers. That's my aunt right there. Her name is Lily Childers. Now, over here on this side, you see more veterans. Anywhere you see a little flag is a veteran. And Mr. Walter used to take care of all of them. Now it falls on me to do it, because every birthday or whatnot, he'd come right up here. Now, this is Mr. Albert. Mr. Albert is a Bronze Star recipient, and he is related to Mr. Lewis, and he's also related to my uncle, Preston Aker. And this is also my nephew's uncle, Mr. Spencer Prentup, who's related to the Prentups up there. He's a 2-time recipient of the Bronze Star. And the reason I'm bringing you a little over here, because it ties back into Miss Maud. So this is another veteran. I have requested from the VA. Here's another one of those headstones I was telling you about. I've requested from the VA their service records to find out the other medals and stuff. But we have that one right there. And see, then they got a nicer one right there. Black people were not able to afford, but when the later family were, they did. Yeah. So that's a misnomer when they say, well, that headstone's not that old. Well, they couldn't afford it when the person first died. We were not the typical cemetery. Now, this is Miss Maud's Chatham, the Chatham side of her family. Miss Willie Bell Hunt, Mr. George's granddaughter, Mr. William Buster's daughter, right there, Miss Willie Bell Hunt, married Roy Chatham, and these are all of them. And they got several military. This is Mr. Leroy. This is Mr. David right here. We've ordered his military one because he served in the Army. And this is Roland, his brother. Okay, so then over here on this side, we got a few more veterans there in the back. Now I'm going to show you one last little section over here. I'd be remiss not to show my own mama. This is Miss Diane's people right here. That's my mom's best friend. These are all of her people. Miss Diane Gregory, who Nate Kennedy, Ann Strickland, Ann Reese. Oh, I can't leave that one out. Ann Reese. There's another veteran right here. Eddie Martin. That's Mr. Eddie B. I remember him as a child. 2 months ago, we uncovered all of this. Now, that's my aunt, Aunt Leela, and married to Ned Jr. Childers. And this right here, we uncovered this. My son was pushing this back. It looked like that right there, slowly but surely cutting it back. And look, that's what we found. And we also found Mr. Conley right there. That's him and his wife. As you can tell, this is sunken in too. But like I said, that's what it looked like back there, and we're just slowly inching back. This is my grandmother, Marva G. Taylor, Godlock Taylor. And this is my mother, Peggy. She was the first African American in Gordon County to receive a full academic scholarship to the University of Georgia. She was one of the first classes that was forced, the first class to, was forced to go to an integrated school. And she would have been valedictorian, but the high school changed the rules for academics and said you had to be there 2 years. But she still earned her full ride to the University of Georgia. She was one of 25 black students at a time there were 20,000 in 1967. And this is my brother's daughter. She didn't live long. And my brother Joel. And we have his headstone coming too. And then, of course, all of this is ours. All of the wooded area is ours all the way back.
Probably still more to find.
Oh, yes, and more to bury. And here's another veteran, Mr. Kennedy. Same Kennedys that's over there on the other side, Mr. Paul's relatives.
Oh, he was a Marine. World War II.
The more we push back right here, you can see we did have our zero turn up here and we kind of got stuck. And at that point, we knew what we were getting stuck in. So we had to pull back. But we have also sprayed a lot of stuff so that way we can, the foliage, we can naturally get it to go away. Now these are the Curtises, which are the other side of my family, my mother's father's side. And the Montgomerys, that's Miss Lillet's family right there. Miss Mary Ruth. That's her family right there. So yes, and that's basically Colbert, Calvary. I know you heard Miss Mary Ruth call it Calvary. Well, originally it was called the Colored People. This was during the Cherokee Nation and all the way up until it was deeded to us. Once it was deeded to us, the name was given was Calvary, and we don't know how it turned into Colbert.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, our people were not allowed to read and write. Right. So how they pronounced it and then how they spelled it. So Calvary could have sounded like Colbert, and that's how it became Colbert. But now we are a historic district, and it is Colbert Calvary Cemetery. Now, right here is my uncle. Now, I know for a fact that his sister is right here, my aunt, and her headstone is under the ground. But this is Colbert Calvary Cemetery, 56 veterans, at least 9 confirmed slaves. And I'm pretty sure there are more. The more we uncover, the more it gets.
Every cemetery I'm ever at has a story, but being able to hear all of these stories with this one from you who've researched it and are trying to save it.
I used to be a school teacher.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I taught history on the middle school, high school, and collegiate level.
That's awesome.
And I taught political science, and I have always loved history. Yeah. And I was an athlete for many years, so you know that competitive spirit.
Right.
And then we uncovered Miss Violet. That's Stephen's wife, Miss Maud's in-law, aunt-in-law. We don't know what that one is, and we kept digging, and I said, it's got to be something. I just don't know what.
So this cemetery began for people who were enslaved by the Cherokee Nation. How long do you think that the Cherokee were enslaving?
So it was when they decided to assimilate to the white settlers' way, and the chiefs owned, according to their 1835 census, they owned 1,578 slaves. That was that time period. So we know that we have an 1837, and I'm pretty sure she's not the only one.
Yeah.
But like I said, when we're pushing back, we find more, but some of them are unmarked.
Especially dating back to the Creek time or Cherokee
Both.
time.
Creeks
that's right,
over there.
are unmarked. And then,
yes.
Then you have the plantation. And was it used solely by the plantation at the time, or was it kind of a community?
All black people were buried here. So when you go back and research the newspapers in the Calhoun Times like 1885, somewhere around there when it started, all black people were buried here. And then when black churches came about, they would have cemeteries around, but if you had a black church in town, you still were buried here. So Friendship Baptist, Allen Chapel, Porch Chapel, all of those people came here because there was nowhere to be buried around the church. Whereas out in the country, Those Mount Zion, Snorville, Redbud, they actually have burials out there. But that didn't come until the mid 1900s.
200 years, almost 200 years of
Yes.
history in this place. From the moment I got here, I have to say this, from the moment I got here, I have been loaded down with incredible information, and it's overwhelming for me. I can't imagine what it's like for you retaining all of that.
Well, it was a slow retention, so it is now working knowledge.
Right.
So it's not like I got bombarded. My great niece and nephews came out here and helped me uncover graves, clean graves off. So it was a history for them as well, to let them know these are your people. So it was more than just me coming out and researching. It's a labor of love, because this is my family, 5 generations back.
Yes.
This is Miss Maud's family all the way. We know her great-great-grandfather's name. This is our history. So it's more than just a cemetery. The cemetery links our black community. I mean, this cemetery was first, then we got our school, 1929, and then we got an addition to the school. By 1947, went to the 11th grade, and then from there we got Stevens High School, became all these state championships, 12 state championships in a very brief period of time, and all of those people came from right here.
And the people who built the county in
Right
so many
here.
ways right here.
Right here. We are linked to Richard Peters, who was instrumental in changing. He was the one that changed Atlanta's name. He was the president of modern day CSX back then. He was the president of the railroad. He is the reason Atlanta has the railroad. He's the reason we have the railroad. He had a processing plant called Echota Mills that was supplied by his plantation, our people who served him. So it is an interesting story, but we are documented in history, and we want our history to be told in full. And that fullness of it lets people know it's more than just a cemetery. It is a community, and that same community, since it has been in its beginning, has taken care of this place. And then when it was deeded to us, our organization was formed, and we are a 114 years old nonprofit organization of continual care. And when I tell you state championships were played in the gym that we have, and we're trying to get that gym back, but that gym represents, the cemetery represents a life of struggle, overcoming, not complaining, putting the work in, and excellence. The veterans you see in here, a lot of them were on those championship teams. So they went from high school to the military, and then they became exceptional in the military, came out of the military and became exceptional men and women, and sacrifice and hard work. Mr. George's grandson, great-grandson, Brexley would be his great-grandson, is a Harvard Law graduate. He's also my cousin, a Harvard Law graduate. So you went from slavery to Harvard Law. That's an amazing story, and it's not unique to us. It's just who we are. And, I just thank the Lord that He has guided us in every way to find the information so their voices can be heard through us. Because they didn't get their recognition then because of the circumstances and segregation and whatnot, but we can tell their story.
Absolutely.
Because they have been Miss Maud has given me so much information on her family, pictures and whatnot, and that's the entire community. We have a Library of Congress section where we actually record our stories in NPR, and we have that section, and our people have been very open with sharing because they want to be recognized and acknowledged too, because they come from more than what we were told. And we're not ashamed that we were once enslaved. We're not now. That's a story. That is a real story. And for anyone to discount that story means you don't have a story.
And what a lot of people discount is like the fine antebellum homes that was built by slave labor, all the intricate workings and everything, and all of the skill and talent that the enslaved people had.
And relegated to we're lazy. And we're not. We built this country without any pay, without any recognition. Then their children became 12-time state champions in less than 12 years, in 10 years, 52 to 61, 12-time state champions. No one in this county has ever won a basketball state championship except for Stevens High School.
And Miss Maul,
Two-time champion on that team. Great, great, great granddaughter of Charles Hunt, who was brought here by David Hunt when it was the Cherokee Nation.
So she's the great, great, great granddaughter of an enslaved person.
Well, two, because her great-granddaddy was enslaved. Mr. George was also born in 1843. And there's Mr. George's son right there, Buster. This is Mr. Buster. That's Mr. George's son, Mr. Charles's grandson, and Miss Maud's grandfather. William Buster had the first cab company in Gordon County, and there's a picture up here of it. And Miss Maud is the one that gave it to me. And Miss Mary Ruth is looking at it right now. That's the picture right there. That's Mr. William Buster Hunt, and that's Miss Maud's granddaddy. But her whole family owned quite a few things. The West Side grocery stores, they own the trucking company, the recycling company.
Yeah, the paper line.
The paper, and then what else do they own?
The moving company that
They currently still own a moving company.
The younger generation.
This is a map of the actual cemetery, and I split it into zones. And then that way we can tell you where your family's buried. Or if we don't know, but you know, you could come in, like my mom is buried in Zone 8 and then Section 2. That's where my mom is buried at, right in this area, right, Zone 7, Section 2. She's right here in that clearing area. And then the oldest part of the cemetery is Zone 1, Section 1. And that's an easy way for us to be able to say, this section is empty, this section needs to be filled, who's buried where. And it helps us to navigate on the unmarked graves, because somebody knows somebody where they were buried, but this is just a great way that we can narrow it down, because it is a lot. The actual slave schedule from 1860, and there's Richard Peters' name, and he owned 233 slaves. The papers that Miss Mary Ruth is looking through, that's the actual people that we know are in our cemetery right now.
Okay.
And I did not have a clue all these people were here until I started walking through the cemetery.
Yes, that is right around 500 known that we know, and then we have 145 unmarked that we've identified, and then the more we push back, the more we find.
So it's probably going to be like double.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if he had 230 on record, then they had children.
Right.
And then they had Gordon County is a little unique, because Gordon County didn't become a county until 1850. So there were slaves prior to that didn't get counted. So we have to look at the Cass slave records and the Floyd slave records, because that's what this was called before it was Gordon County. They cut parts of those lands out to form Gordon County. Right. So that's why his name may not appear in the 1850, because 1850 census was already taken by the time Gordon County was formed.
And then going back to the Cherokee.
The Cherokee have their own census, and their census also lists how many slaves they had and the names of the families that owned them. But we never had names. As you can tell on here, it goes the number of slaves and the age group. So you go number of slaves, age, sex, and color. Yeah. So Richard had one slave that was 55 years old and was a male and black. It's a lot of research, but it needs to be done because it truly is our history. And as you can tell here, the other thing that we have done is if they're in pink, that means they do not have a headstone. But a family member or paperwork or obituaries has confirmed that they're here. They just don't have markers.
Wow.
And so this was painstaking.
I bet.
And this is all of us. And then I walked the entire cemetery to verify each one of these that do have headstones, to make sure that they did. And there's Mr. Stephen Hunt, born a slave and then freed. And his master was H.C. Hunt. He was a colonel in the Confederate Army, and he forced Mr. Stephen. Back then, it wasn't unusual for slaves to go to war with their masters, but he served in the Civil War and was in the Battle of Resaca.
Did we see his grave, or is he not marked?
Unmarked, but the newspaper, his son wrote an article, Mr. Author, and let me see if I printed that one out. This is his son here, Mr. Author, and he wrote an article to Mr. when Mr. Hunt, H.C., died, and I don't think I printed that one out, but that one's in the Calhoun Times. Mr. Arthur wrote a letter to Mr. H.C. Hunt, and in that letter it talked about where Stephen was buried, and it said on the southernmost part of the Colored People's Cemetery on Mount Alto, which is what Cherry Hill used to be called, and that would be in that area over there. Yeah. Was it worth the drive?
Oh, it was worth the drive. It is incredible.
And I want you, we're welcoming you back at any time, because I have a 5-year plan, and in 5 years it won't look anything like this. We'll have our fence up, and we will start taking tours where people can come and walk and see the history, and we will have all the things restored at that point.
I was going to say, I think this definitely be a return trip kind of thing, because
Yes.
there's still more stories here.
It really is uncovered stories, because last month we discovered 3 new veterans. Her cousin Tommy Chatham told us, "Hey, you don't have David on there. He's a veteran." And that we have monthly events where we all get together and we spread the word, spread the news, tell them updates on what's going on. That's part of our charter with the Civic Club, is to inform the community what is actually going on. We do those once a month. We appreciate you coming, because we want to get as many people as possible to see our story, because our story is not much different than many people who were in our situation. And we need as many partners and allies as we could possibly get to get our story told, because it will help someone else say, "Hey, we got the same thing going on. This is how we can do it." My son saw you on Facebook, and he was like, "You got to call him, you got to call him, you got to call him." And so I finally reached out, and same day.
That's right.
And then a few days later, you're here. And we just appreciate you doing this.